So you want to have a 21st century public school system. Easy. Just get a lot of teachers who are really into technology, students who are motivated to use it, and you're set, right? Whoa, not so quickly. First, you got to think about federal laws. FERPA, Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, which says that any time you have a student go and give information to an outside school to the school system, you need to get parental permission. So think about all the websites you like using. Prezi, for example. If a teacher mandated that Prezi be used, the parent would have to sign off on it. It's okay to say it's your choice, but it's not okay to say you can use it. And okay, so let's modernize law and say, the parents just say kids can use any site, no problem. But then you got the opposite side. What about increased ability to hack and then getting into that information and getting the emails of students and being able to reach those students? Think about predators now reaching minors. That's not something we want. So we got to think about the FERPA and the COPA Acts. They are antiquated in terms of age, several decades old, but how and when should they be updated? Oh, the big question, costs. So school systems are buying laptops, they're buying tablets like crazy. They're bringing in educational integration specialists. They're bringing in people who can fix the hardware. They're increasing bandwidth, because if it's BYOD, bring your own device, which is the only way school systems can really get everybody online, then we need to increase the bandwidth, and that costs money. Government term, referendum. Many school systems are using referendums to raise the money. For example, Fairfax County spends $127 million every other year for infrastructure costs to renovate and rebuild schools, but also for the technology, because the technology is so expensive. And yet, we are thinking fundamentally about changing the way we teach in our school system. My grandfather taught in a one-room schoolhouse over 100 years ago. I want you to think about that. Aren't we still in a one-room schoolhouse? Except we have the social studies teacher next to the one-room schoolhouse, or the math teacher, and the English teacher, etc. It was built for the industrial machine in the late 1800s. Everybody goes at the same pace and learns the same thing and then moves on to the next level. And they're ready ultimately then to either work in the factory or to be the factory manager. And we haven't changed that model, and why not? We have the wherewithal. I mean, think about social networking, for example, and using the internet. Should we just be making kids regurgitate information, or should we be asking them the kinds of questions that require research? And then how do we change the tests, the state tests, the AP test, for example? And is it okay for a student in one class to communicate with a student in another class, or another school, or another country? And is collaboration okay in that respects? And should we have one size fits all? Should it all be all juniors have to do AP US history? Or what about a kid who's advanced in US history but really behind in math? Well, there are different kind of answers. Here's one, for example. Listen to this.
You're trying to do. The Newton recommendation is what we call continuously adaptive. What you get next may not always be what you expect. If you happen to be struggling in a math domain, particularly say around word problems, the next best thing might be something that helps you more critically read in order to be able to extract information from those word problems more effectively.
So when we give a recommendation, what we try to ensure is that it takes somebody off their normal course, but if it does so, it's to make sure that they can move ahead faster overall.
Newton as a company is building an adaptive learning platform. The infrastructure team at Newton is building an adaptive infrastructure platform. Experience.
So what this is saying is that Newton and other startup companies like this, because it's only a company that's several years old, is that you, the student, might come in and do one faster than another. And you might want 30-minute segments of a class, like my daughter Madison, who likes it quick but doesn't want to work for hours. I like to sit for 2 hours straight. So I might get a week done of one subject, take a break, and then do another subject, whereas my daughter Madison might want increments of a whole bunch of different subjects. And how would we develop that in the schoolroom? How would the teacher model change from all lecturing to facilitate? I mean, speaking about lecturing, Khan Academy is not the first one to do this. It's actually started with two teachers about 7 years ago, science teachers. But Khan had this taken the concept of, well, why don't we do the easy stuff at home, such as you're doing right now, listening to a lecture, and why don't we do the hard things at school, the problems, so the teacher can run around and help the student. And the teacher might be helping one student, according to the Newton model, on an algorithm, another one on geometry or on English, depending on what student was doing what. And so we might have teachers moving from different areas. We might have big rooms, or we might have different times coming in. All this means that we not only have to rethink the student model, but we have to rethink the teacher model. And rethinking is not just rethinking and doing the costs. It takes lots of time. It takes lots of buy-in. And big groups like Fairfax County with 177,000 students do not move quickly. Smaller school systems and startup companies do, but it takes a long time to move big ships like your county. And so the question is, how quickly will these changes be made? They will be made. How effective are they going to be in the short run, and how long will it take? Because you are standing at the precipice of probably the biggest change in technology since the start of public education in the mid-1800s. That's amazing. And so your project is going to be to look at some of those things that are going on, some of the pros and the cons that are going on right now in Fairfax County, in the state of Virginia, and the federal government, and make some suggestions to our school board member. What are you going to decide? That's the question.